Welcome to the lesson number 1, how to create a high converting webinar registration page. First of all, I wanted to mention that I highly recommend that you go through this entire course and create your entire evergreen funnel, like your webinar registration page, have your sales pages ready, emails written and scheduled, and you've done all the integrations depending on which evergreen funnel you've chosen before sharing the link to your webinar registration page on social media or in your emails to your email list. So make sure to set everything up and test that everything is working properly and that follow-up emails are scheduled before sending the link to your webinar registration page to anyone. Now, what comes to your webinar topic, we have talked about this before, but if you're still stuck between two topics, then I would recommend polling your audience on social media, for example, in your content and Instagram stories, or surveying them to help you choose the most profitable one. What helped me tremendously with creating my webinar registration page, sales pages, and my email copy is creating a Google document with all the phrases and questions I've gotten from my dream students in those exact same words and using those exact words and phrases when creating my webinar registration page, sales pages, and email copy, aka what do they struggle with the most? What do they desire the most? What is their current situation they're stuck in? What are their biggest limiting beliefs that are stopping them from taking action? And what are their biggest objections that are stopping them from purchasing my offer? When you know your dream clients or students' biggest limiting beliefs and objections, you can debunk them in your copy. So in this module, I will teach you how to create your webinar registration page in Kajabi, and you can use my template that I've created for you and modify it. But again, if you're using another platform, I would still recommend going through the lesson where I show you how to modify the Kajabi webinar registration page templates so that you can use the same principles and concepts on the other platform that you're using when creating your webinar registration page. Now let's go through the webinar registration page structure. First section should include the topic, aka the title of your webinar, and should be super catchy. You should also add a call to action above the fold right under the title. Now, depending on which passive revenue funnel, aka evergreen funnel, you've chosen, once people click on the call to action button that can say watch instantly or save your seat, they will either see a pop-up window with a form to get an instant access to the webinar, like in the top example. And this is if you decide to create a Watch Instantly webinar without a separate webinar software. Or they will see a scheduled webinar pop-up window from EverWebinar, aka an external webinar software that I'll show you how to embed on your webinar registration page later, and that is where they can choose a time slot or just-in-time option. I will show you how to set up both of this in this course. So all the call to action buttons on your webinar registration page will either be the funnel number 1, the top one, or the funnel number 2, the bottom one. Now, once they scroll down, the next section on your webinar registration page will be a summary of what they will learn in your webinar, aka what they will gain by attending your webinar. This is going to be your webinar title, tagline, like in my example where I say that in this free masterclass, I'm going to show you exactly how you can turn your passion into passive income by creating your own online course. Now, in the third section of your webinar registration page is where you list all the biggest outcomes that people will be able to walk away with, aka list the steps you'll be teaching in your webinar and add a call to action at the end. Again, on this section, like all the other ones, I would use your dream clients or students' exact words, struggles, and desires so it can resonate with them and be a no-brainer for them to sign up for. So in my example, I share 4 biggest outcomes they will learn and their limiting beliefs, like I'm saying that how to find a profitable course topic, even if you don't feel like you have knowledge or expertise in anything particular yet. And then I'm saying that learn how to turn your passion, experience, and skills into revenue generating business with no prior experience. So do you see how I'm using my dream students' exact limiting beliefs? So I know that one of their limiting beliefs is that they don't feel like they're an expert or that they have any knowledge or expertise to actually create their own online course, or they feel like they don't have any prior experience. And that's exactly what I'm doing right here, is that I'm debunking that by saying that I will teach you how to do XYZ, even if you don't have prior experience, etc., etc. And then again, in this section, I have a call to action button after I've listed all the steps that I'm going to teach them inside the webinar. And after that, I would also add about you section with your picture where you briefly summarize why people should learn from you. What makes you an expert or authority in this area? What is your own before and after and the transformation related to the webinar topic and your paid offer? What was your own undesirable situation and desirable situation, like in my example where I say that Natalia Raitomaki went from being burnt out and exhausted from working as a corporate counsel at her 9-to-5 plus seeing one-on-one clients. Again, this one is going to resonate with my dream students' current undesirable situation where they are at right now. And I went to a multiple six-figure business owner thanks to online courses and passive income strategies. So the sentence "to a multiple six-figure business owner" is something where my dream student really wants to be. So this is going to be the desirable situation. So here you can just in a couple of sentences explain what was your before and after and why people should attend your webinar and learn from you. And the last section of your webinar registration page could be just prompting your audience to watch your entire webinar and stay until the end, incentivizing them that you'll have some incredible bonuses and savings at the end of the webinar. This is where you're emphasizing the urgency or a mix of urgencies that you'll use, for example, by adding some special bonuses and savings just for those who attend your webinar. Then you'll add the call to action for the last time, and this is pretty much it for the webinar registration page. Now, optionally, you could also add some testimonials here as well, but if this is the first time you're creating your webinar, you might not have any positive feedback or testimonials here yet about how amazing your webinar is. So your webinar registration page can be pretty simple and short. All you have to do is be super specific and clear what people will gain and walk away with. What is something tangible they will learn and implement right now, pinpointing their desires, current struggles, and limiting beliefs. So it's extremely important to know what is something that people really want to learn in the situation where they're stuck right now in their journey. So make sure that you know where exactly is your dream student or dream client right now, and what is something that will help them tremendously right now in the beginning of their journey. I would also recommend using your own brand colors and fonts that you are using elsewhere, like on your sales pages, and staying consistent with your brand, but also you don't need to necessarily create a cookie cutter webinar registration page, so make sure that you use your own imagination. Remember that you want to attract like-minded people, so a good way is to think of the webinar registration pages you've seen before and signed up for. How did they look like? Were they professionally made? What kind of pictures did they use, etc., etc.? Were some of them so good that you had to sign up for them? So go with what you yourself liked in the past. But that said, obviously, you can use my Kajabi webinar registration page template that I've created for you and modify it to fit your brand, and I show you exactly how to do that in the next lesson. One thing that I also wanted to mention is that it's okay if you'll need to modify your webinar registration page copy in the future, because remember that you have to monitor and analyze your metrics and numbers to see what is converting. So the average webinar registration sign-up rate is usually about 30%. So make sure that you tweak your webinar registration page as you analyze your metrics to see how many people register for your webinar from all of those people who visited your webinar registration page. And again, as a reminder, don't send people to your webinar registration page until you've gone through this entire course and set up your funnel in its entirety. So even if you have created your webinar registration page, make sure that you don't add that in your link in bio or send that link to anyone before you have created all of your emails, scheduled them, and before you have integrated everything. So this is pretty much it for this lesson. So make sure that you have picked your evergreen funnel first. So either the first one, aka watch instantly, where you won't need any external webinar software, but just the platform for your sales pages that you're already probably using, or you can use Kajabi, which I'm teaching you in this course. So I'll show you step by step how to set everything up. You'll need to create a form in Kajabi and 3 sales pages, which one of them will be the page with your webinar video and special offer, aka the urgency. And then you'll also need deadline funnel software that will create that urgency in the form of a countdown timer, tracking users by their IP address. And so that everything works properly, you'll also need Zapier to integrate Kajabi and deadline funnel together. Now, if you picked funnel number 2, aka the scheduled webinar, then you will only need 2 sales pages, deadline funnel software, and Ever webinar software where you will host your webinar. Plus, you'll also need Zapier to integrate everything together. So again, I will break down everything for you in the next lessons, but first you need to pick which funnel you want to set up. And your next steps for now is to create your webinar registration page, which I'm showing you how to do in the next lesson. So I guess I will see you there.